You're watching In Session and the Dharun Ravi invasion of privacy trial. Now, the defense started putting on its case this morning. They've already called 8 witnesses. We want to know from you, if Dharun Ravi were to testify, what would it do to the defense's case? I have 2 experts with me to take your calls. Trial attorney Brian Claypool is here. He specializes in civil rights litigation. Also, psychotherapist John Ballou. He specializes in relationships, intimacy, and sexuality. Good afternoon. Welcome back to In Session. I'm Ryan Smith. Well, defense attorneys in the Dharun Ravi trial are presenting their case. This morning, they called several friends of the defendant's family as character witness. Every single one of them said they never heard Ravi say anything negative about homosexuals, but they also said the subject never came up at all. Now, the witness on the stand right now, investigator Frank Danino of the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office, and he interviewed several of Dharun Ravi's friends for this case, and he said his goal was simple: to get all the facts. So, after a lengthy direct examination of investigator Frank Danino, the judge, actually the lawyer, Steve Altman, said, "My voice is starting to give out. I think I need a break." So, the judge elected to give the jury a lunch break. They'll be back probably in looks like about an hour or so. But interesting line of questioning here. I want to bring in trial attorney Brian Claypool. He specializes in civil rights litigation. And Brian, let's talk about the defense posture right now and their tactics. Questioning Frank Danino, who, by the way, is the prosecutor's investigator, about all these people he talked to, bringing up the consistent theme. Did you talk to them about whether Dharun Ravi or Molly Way made comments about their feelings about sexual orientation, homosexuality? How are you feeling about this line of questioning, and do you believe it's effective for the jury to hear?
Ryan, I think it's an effective strategy, but I think the manner in which he's going about it is questionable. He had a chance to make a big statement this morning and come out of the box strong, and I think he's losing his voice a bit because he's asking too many questions that I think aren't really pertinent right now. What I would have done is just asked point blank to this investigator, throughout your investigation, did you learn, isn't it true that you learned nothing about Mr. Ravi being anti-gay? I might have even shown him some of the tweets, any text messages, any iChats, and say, hey, take a look at these documents. Do you see anything in these documents, in these electronic communications, that indicate that Mr. Ravi is anti-gay? I would have come out a lot stronger with that, but I think what he needs to continue to do is, with each witness he puts on the stand that's involved in the investigation, ask the same line of questioning to establish that Mr. Ravi is not anti-gay, but for the purpose of having the jury hear it time and time again. Because these jurors don't have a long attention span, and they're looking for a couple strong facts to kind of validate what it is that they're already feeling, because it's my belief that most jurors make up their mind in cases like this early on, and then they're just looking for evidence to kind of attach or validate what they believe in the case. So
you're saying ask the same line of questioning person to person, not ask one person about all the different people he interviewed and whether or not that happened with every single person, because you lose the jury a little bit when you do that.
Absolutely, Ryan. Great point. You said it more artfully than I did. You bet. You've got to get more witnesses up there and ask that question to 5, 6, 7 witnesses, because the jury then hears it 5, 6, 7 times, as opposed to asking an investigator for 15 minutes about whether he took a recorded statement. The jury doesn't care about that. They want to hear relevant testimony, and they need to hear it time and time again, and then he uses that as the hallmark of his closing argument.
Brian, what do you think? Should he testify?
Yes, absolutely. I respectfully disagree with the caller. Ravi needs to testify for 2 reasons. The individuals who testified this morning were ineffective because the prosecution did a great job of cross-examining them and basically showing that they had no foundation to come in and say that Ravi is not anti-gay. So right now there's no evidence before the jury that Ravi is not anti-gay. He needs to walk into the courtroom, look into those jurors' eyes and say, I am not anti-gay. He needs to put that out there. He needs to make a human connection with the jury. And also, Shirley made a good point. Ravi probably should take the stand also to explain some of the inconsistencies in the recorded statement given to the police officers.
But Shirley also said, Brian, that he gets on the stand, he made those lies to police, he said one thing, then he says another, so he gets on the stand and you doubt his credibility. That could be a problem for him.
Well, I don't agree with that, because I think you made a good point actually earlier that sometimes during electronic communications that the true thoughts of a person are missed. Sometimes when an individual is being interviewed by a detective or a police officer and they're feeling nervous, or maybe they don't understand the question, or maybe it's a recording is played out of context, you have to come in and explain exactly in more detail what you were feeling at that moment and what you were trying to impart. So I think it would certainly give a human element to that recorded interview that was.
And Brian, okay, that's a good point. Let me push back again on another point here. You mentioned he gets on the stand, he says he is not anti-gay. Who wouldn't say that if they were on trial for a hate crime looking at 5 to 10 years in jail just on that charge alone? Who wouldn't get up there and say, hey, folks, I'm not anti-gay, I'm not against homosexuality? Who wouldn't say that? Isn't that what we would expect them to say?
Well, the proof's in the pudding. Ravi learned on August 22nd that Tyler Clementi was gay. What did he do? He didn't run from that. He didn't put in a request to Rutgers and say, hey, I want a new roommate. He actually followed through and became a roommate for over a month with Clementi, number one. Number two, it's my understanding that Ravi does have a friend who is gay. And I think that's important for the jury to hear about too. Because if he has a friend who's openly gay, that does demonstrate to the jury that he has a level of tolerance for the gay lifestyle.
All right, you know, all good points. I'm interested to see if he takes a stand. John, Brian, thank you as well. Great points all around, thanks to our callers especially. What an interesting discussion, and how interesting it will be as we all sit back and wonder, will Tyler Clementi take the stand? I think Brian's starting to sway me. I think maybe we should. Dharun Ravi, excuse me. If he should take the stand, I think Brian was starting to sway me there, and maybe he should.